There comes a moment in life when noise becomes distraction, when opinions become poison, when explanations become exhausting. Silence is not just the absence of noise. It is the removal of unnecessary weight from your mind, your goals, and your journey. When you stop announcing your plans to the world, you instantly free yourself from the pressure to meet everyone's expectations. The moment you stop telling people what you're working on, you no longer carry the burden of their timelines, their opinions, or their comparisons. Most people fail to grow because they feel chased by the fear of being judged if they don't succeed fast enough. They feel watched, evaluated, and measured. They start working for approval instead of working for progress. But when you choose silence, all of that falls away. Your journey becomes yours again. Private, personal, protected. Silence gives you breathing room. It allows you to develop at your natural pace instead of rushing to impress others. It gives you space to think deeply, plan carefully, and execute without distractions. You no longer feel the need to look successful. You simply focus on becoming successful. When you stop broadcasting your goals, you stop feeling responsible for the expectations of others. You stop worrying about who is keeping score. You stop performing for an audience. Your growth becomes internal, intentional, and uninterrupted. And the more pressure you remove, the more clarity you gain. You start to understand what you truly want, not what people expect from you, but not what society pressures you to be, but what aligns with your heart and your path. Silence becomes your shield. It protects you from opinions you never asked for. It frees you from the invisible weight of judgment. It gives you a mental environment where your determination can breathe, your ideas can mature, and your confidence can grow without interference. Real transformation is rarely loud. The most powerful changes happen gradually, slowly, and silently beneath the surface where no one can see the work being done. When you choose to grow quietly, you allow yourself to focus on the things that truly matter: your mindset, your habits, your discipline, your emotional strength, and your internal stability. These are the foundations of a strong life, and they cannot be built in noise, chaos, or constant attention. Quiet growth is patient. It respects the process. It recognizes that meaningful progress does not happen overnight, and it does not need to be displayed publicly to be real. When you grow silently, you give your roots time to strengthen before you try to rise. You fix what is weak, you reinforce what is fragile, and you correct what is broken without anyone knowing how much effort it takes. This silent rebuilding phase allows you to work without judgment or distraction. You're not rushing to show results or prove yourself. You're not competing with anyone's timeline. You're not wasting energy explaining why you're changing. Instead, your full focus is directed inward on building a version of yourself that can withstand challenges, pressure, and setbacks. Quiet growth also creates depth. It forces you to look within and understand yourself on a deeper level. You begin to recognize patterns, beliefs, and behaviors that need to be upgraded. You develop stronger emotional intelligence, better decision-making, and greater self-awareness, all of which create a foundation that cannot be easily shaken. Think of it like constructing a skyscraper. The taller the building, the deeper the foundation must go. The digging, the hardest part, is done underground, away from the public eye. Only when the base is strong enough does the structure rise into view. Your silent growth is that underground work, and without it, nothing long-lasting can be built. When you grow quietly, you build strength that doesn't collapse under pressure. You build identity that doesn't depend on validation. You build discipline that doesn't fade when motivation disappears. You build a foundation so solid that when challenges come, and they will, you remain rooted, stable, and unshakable. One of the biggest drains on a person's strength is the constant need to explain themselves, their dreams, their choices, their plans, and their journey. Every time you justify what you're doing or why you're doing it, a part of your emotional and mental energy gets pulled away from the very work you're trying to focus on. And the more people you try to satisfy or convince, the more scattered your energy becomes. When you decide to rebuild yourself silently, you reclaim the energy. You stop giving long speeches about your decisions. You stop defending your goals to people who don't understand your vision. You stop wasting breath on those who have already made up their minds about you. Instead of using your strength to get others to believe in you, you start using it to build yourself. Explanations may seem small, but they create mental pressure. Each time you tell someone your plan, you open a door for their doubts, their fears, and their negativity to slip inside. Their questions become your distractions. Their skepticism becomes your self-doubt. Their misunderstanding becomes your frustration. And slowly your focus becomes divided. But when you choose silence, that cycle ends. Your energy stays with you. Your thoughts remain clear. Your mind becomes sharper. You no longer feel the need to justify your transformation. It becomes something you live, not something you talk about. Your progress becomes more natural, more authentic, and more aligned with who you truly are. Silence also teaches you that you don't owe anyone explanations for your growth. You don't owe anyone a reason for changing your habits, your circle, your mindset, or your priorities. You don't need approval to evolve. You don't need permission to outgrow who you used to be. And you certainly don't need to convince anyone that your life is heading in a new direction. When you protect your energy from constant explanations, you get time and space to focus deeply. This deep focus becomes the fuel for real transformation. You can observe yourself more clearly. You can work on your goals without interference. You can rebuild it with purpose, without interruptions, without opinions, and without the emotional exhaustion that comes from constantly being questioned. In silence, your energy finally stops leaking. It starts building. It starts strengthening. It starts transforming you from the inside out. Not everyone around you wants to see you grow. Some people pretend to support you on the surface, but deep inside, they fear your progress. Your growth threatens their comfort. Your ambition challenges their laziness. Your evolution reminds them of everything they are not willing to change in themselves. And because of this, when you speak your dreams out loud, you unintentionally invite their doubts, their fears, and their negativity into your mind. Silence becomes your shield. When you keep your goals and rebuilding process to yourself, you protect your vision from outside contamination. You don't give others the chance to criticize something they haven't seen. You don't expose your fragile beginning stages to people who will stomp on them with careless words. You avoid the discouragement that can come from hearing, are you sure you can do this? Or what if it doesn't work? Or people like you can't achievements. These statements, even if spoken casually, can take root in your subconscious and weaken your confidence. Doubt spreads fast, especially when it comes from people you expected understand you. But silence eliminates that risk. It gives you a safe internal environment where your dreams can breathe, grow, and strengthen before facing the world. In silence, you also distance yourself from the negativity that comes disguised as advice. Some people don't discourage you because they care. They discourage you because they fear being left behind. Others don't criticize your dreams because they are impossible. They criticize because they never dared to chase their own. Their limitations are not yours, and silence helps you maintain that boundary. By staying quiet, you also avoid unnecessary comparisons. When no one knows your goals, no one questions your pace, your progress, or your setbacks, you don't have to deal with raised eyebrows, sarcastic comments, or hidden doubts. You stay in your lane, focused on your growth, far from the noise of judgments and opinions. Silence creates mental peace. And in that peace, you become sharper, stronger, and more confident. You begin to trust your own instincts instead of seeking reassurance. You build resilience because you're no longer influenced by criticism or distorted perspectives. You learn to walk forward based on your own belief, not the belief others decide to grant you. When you protect yourself with silence, your growth becomes cleaner, calmer, and more authentic. You give your future a chance to bloom without being crushed by negativity of those who could never imagine the greatness you're building. One of the most liberating parts of rebuilding yourself silently is discovering that you no longer need validation from anyone. Most people spend years trapped in the cycle of seeking approval, waiting for others to tell them they're good enough, smart enough, strong enough, or capable enough. This constant hunger for validation becomes a silent prison, shaping decisions, limiting dreams, and controlling self-worth. But when you choose silence, you disconnect from this prison completely. By not announcing your journey, you stop relying on reactions to keep you motivated. You stop refreshing for likes, comments, or praise. You stop expecting people to understand your reasons or agree with your choices. Instead, you begin to trust your own inner compass, something far more powerful than any external opinion. Silence forces you to tap into a deeper form of confidence, the kind that comes from within. You start doing things because you believe in them, not because someone applauded you. You start moving forward because you feel it's right, not because people cheer for you. This internal certainty becomes the foundation of unshakable self-belief. Validation from others is temporary, it fades quickly, but validation from within is lasting. It builds your entire identity. When you stop seeking approval, you free yourself from fear. You're no longer afraid of making mistakes because you're not worried about who is watching. You're no longer afraid of being judged because you aren't performing for an audience. You're no longer afraid to grow because you've stopped tying your worth to other people's opinions. This freedom changes everything. Without the pressure to impress anyone, your choices become more authentic, your goals become more aligned with your true self, your actions become more consistent, your growth becomes more meaningful because it comes from desire, not from the need to be seen or appreciated. Breaking free from validation also cuts the strings that others once used to control you. You stop being swayed by compliments. You stop being hurt by criticism. You stop giving people the power to shape how you feel about yourself. Instead, you reclaim that power fully and confidently. And in that silent rebuilding phase, you realize something powerful. The only approval you ever truly needed was your own. Growth is never a straight line. It is a journey filled with trial and error, with experiments that don't always work, and with steps that sometimes lead you in the wrong direction before guiding you to the right one. But when you live your journey publicly, every mistake feels magnified. Every failure feels embarrassing. Every wrong turn feels like a spotlight is shining on your flaws. And that fear alone becomes a cage, stopping you from trying new things, from taking bold steps, or from making necessary changes. Silence removes that pressure. When you rebuild yourself privately, you create a safe space to experiment freely without fear of judgment. You give yourself permission to test new habits, new routines, new identities, and new mindsets without the world watching. You gain the freedom to fall down, to get back up, and to learn from every misstep without anyone questioning your abilities or your potential. This freedom is powerful because experimentation is the heart of growth. You cannot become stronger if you're too afraid to challenge your weaknesses. You cannot evolve if you're scared to try something different. You cannot transform if you stay stuck in the fear of what will people think if this doesn't work. Silence gives you room to breathe, to make mistakes, and to correct them quietly. It allows you to refine your strategies and sharpen your understanding of yourself before unveiling anything to the world. When no one knows what you're working on, no one knows when you stumble. And when no one knows you stumble, you can rise again without carrying the weight of embarrassment. In private, failure becomes a teacher, not a punishment. You learn faster. You adjust quicker. You observe your patterns more honestly. You understand your strengths and weaknesses without interruption or external judgment. Failure becomes part of your growth rather than part of your reputation. Privacy also builds courage. Once you realize that mistakes won't destroy your image because your journey is unseen, you start taking bolder risks. You dare to evolve in ways you wouldn't if eyes were constantly on you. You become more resilient, more adaptable, and more confident in your ability to shape your own path. Rebuilding silently means giving yourself the grace to be imperfect while still moving forward. It means embracing the beautiful, messy, raw process of transformation without fearing what others might say. It means understanding that every great comeback is built on countless small failures that are allowed to happen safely in the privacy of your own journey. When you choose silence, you remove the comfort of external motivation, the compliments, the attention, the encouragement, the recognition. And without those external boosts, something profound happens. You are forced to rely on your own discipline. You begin to understand that real growth is not fueled by applause, but by consistency. Not by being seen, but by showing up even when no one knows you are working. A silence creates an environment where only your commitment matters. No one is checking on your progress. No one is reminding you to stay focused. No one is congratulating you for small wins. This lack of external validation becomes a training ground for your willpower. You learn to push forward, not because someone is watching, but because you said you would. This is how true discipline is built. You start waking up early because your goals matter, not because it looks impressive. You start working harder because the future you envision demands it, not because someone praised your effort. You stay consistent because you made a promise to yourself, not because anyone is keeping score. In silence, your goals stop being performance pieces. They become commitments written into your character. Discipline, it becomes your backbone. It becomes the force that carries you on days when motivation dies. Because motivation comes and goes, but discipline, once built, stays with you, strengthens you, and guides you. Working quietly also eliminates unnecessary pressure and comparison. When you don't announce your progress, you don't feel the urge to keep up appearances or rush results for the sake of impressing others. Instead, you commit to the process fully. You become more patient, more steady, more focused. You realize that growth isn't about speed. It's about direction and persistence. Silence also deepens your relationship with effort. You begin to enjoy the grind more. You become addicted to the feeling of self-improvement. You celebrate your progress privately, which makes your victories more meaningful and personal. You start experiencing growth as an internal transformation rather than a public achievement. Most importantly, silence teaches you self-accountability. When no one else knows your goals, you become your own coach, your own critic, your own motivator. You learn to push yourself because your dream depends on it, not because your ego wants attention. Rebuilding quietly forces you to meet the highest version of yourself, the version who shows up with discipline even when the world is silent. One of the most liberating parts of rebuilding yourself silent is that you gradually detach from the weight of other people's opinions. When you stop updating the world about your every move, you stop giving them opportunities to judge, criticize, or influence your path. And with each quiet step you take, you strengthen a powerful emotional muscle, the ability to live for yourself instead of living for approval. In silence, you begin to recognize how many decisions in life were previously shaped by the fear of what others might think. You start seeing clearly how often you held back, hesitated, or changed direction, not because it was wrong for you, but because someone else might have something to say about it. This awareness becomes the first step toward freedom. As you rebuild privately, you stop relying on external voices to validate your choices. You stop seeking reassurance before taking action. You stop asking for opinions that were never rooted in understanding. You learn to trust your own judgment. You learn to evaluate life through your own lens, not the distorted perspectives of others. This independence builds confidence. You no longer tremble at criticism or shrink under judgment. You no longer feel the pressure to explain, defend, or justify your path. Instead, you move forward with a calm certainty that your life doesn't need to make sense to anyone except you. Silence becomes your shield from unnecessary noise. When people don't know your plans, they can't question them. When they don't see your progress, they can't compare it. When they don't witness your struggles, they can't comment on them. You eliminate the opinions before they even arrive. And with fewer opinions invading your mind, you gain clarity. Your thinking becomes sharper. Your intuition becomes louder. Your decisions become more authentic. You start choosing what aligns with your growth, not what aligns with someone else's expectations. Eventually, you begin to understand something powerful. Most people project their own fears, insecurities, and limitations onto you. Their opinions rarely reflect your truth. They reflect their own barriers. And the moment you stop giving importance to those opinions, you stop inheriting their limitations. In this silence, you become emotionally stronger. You become mentally independent. You develop the courage to walk your own path without the need for approval from the world. You become someone who listens to their own heart more than the voices around them. There is something undeniably powerful about a transformation that happens in silence. When you rebuild yourself quietly, the world assumes you've vanished, given up, or stayed the same. They see your absence as weakness, unaware that you are behind the scenes, sharpening your mind, strengthening your spirit, and rebuilding the very foundation of your future. And because no one witnesses the process, your comeback becomes a moment of pure shock. When you grow silently, you remove expectations. No one is waiting for results. No one is tracking your progress. No one is measuring your steps. You are free to change without the pressure of being watched. This gives you space to evolve deeply, authentically, and powerfully. Your growth becomes raw and real, not something performed for an audience. Then when you return, the difference in you is undeniable. People will see a new level of confidence, but they won't know the nights you spent learning, healing, and rebuilding. They will see your strength, but they won't see the battles you fought alone. They will see your success, but they won't see the failures, the doubts, or the sacrifices that shaped you. And this mystery, this unseen journey, is what makes your comeback so impactful. A silent comeback carries weight because it's unexpected. It forces people to reevaluate everything they thought they knew about you. Those who underestimated you are confronted by the reality of your growth. Those who doubted you suddenly fall silent. And those who left you behind realize they never understood your potential. The beauty of a hidden journey is that the results speak for themselves. You don't need to explain how you changed. Your transformation becomes the explanation. You don't need to prove your progress. Your presence becomes the proof. The same people who once overlooked you will now ask, how did you do it? And the truth is, you did it quietly, patiently, and with unwavering determination. In silence, the comeback becomes more than a return. It becomes a revelation. It becomes a moment where your strength is undeniable, your growth is visible, and your evolution is impossible to ignore. It becomes a reminder that real power does not need to announce itself. It simply appears, fully formed, ready, and unshakable. There comes a moment in every person's life where they must choose to remain who they are or to quietly become who they were meant to be. You don't need applause. You don't need witnesses. You don't need the world to understand your journey, because transformation was never meant to be loud. It was meant to be pure. It was meant to be sacred. It was meant to be yours. Rebuild yourself in the shadows. Heal where no one can see your scars. Rise where no one can track your steps. Work where no one can interrupt your growth. Let your silence be your strength. Let your consistency become your voice. Let your actions speak the language your mouth never needs to. And when the world least expects it, when they have written you off, when they believe you have quit, that is when you will stand again, not as who you were, but as someone they never saw coming. Your comeback will be your announcement. Your success will be your explanation. Your transformation will be your revenge. So stay silent, stay patient, stay unshakable, because greatness doesn't shout. Greatness whispers until the day it RIRs. Rebuild yourself quietly, so when you rise, the world has no choice but to feel your presence.